This podcast is a part of the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad Network. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, PW_Junkies. Make sure you guys leave us a like, subscribe, and comment, and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. And just make sure you check out all the amazing podcasts that are available on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad Network. You have The Junkyard, What Do You Say with DDJ, Such Good Shoot, and Brad and Steven Talk Wrestling. So make sure you guys check all those out. So, hey, on to the show. Enjoy.
Hey, this is Tamatonga, Bullet Club Original OG triple OG triple.
What's up? It's CVV, Chris Van Vliet, and you are listening to The Junkyard.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to a special Friday edition of The Junkyard. This is your one-stop shop for all things pro wrestling. I am one of your hosts, Spencer Cantor, also known as Number 11. Join the Dark Order. Dennis, if they didn't catch us on Tuesday, why don't you introduce yourselves to these fine people?
Well, before I introduce myself, I just want the records to show that we recorded, we're recording this, and we recorded Tuesday's episode of The Junkyard the same night. So that explains why I'm wearing the same T-shirt on Tuesday's episode as on Friday's episode. So just getting the record straight. I do wash my shirts after every time I wear them. So, but anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time to crawl out from underneath whatever rock you are living under and get with the program. My name is Dennis Day Jr., otherwise known as DDJ, the host of What Do You Say with DDJ that drops every Monday at midnight on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad.
Cheap pop.
Well, I got to give the people what they want, and now I get to do it twice a week.
And what the people want for the second time this week is Jovanni 2 Hotty, as in twice for the 2 hotness of El Guapo 2 Hotty. That is giving you not one, but 2 helpful doses of the hotness.
Ooh, caliente.
Smoking. All right. So if you have not listened to our Tuesday edition of The Junkyard, that was just all about talking the week in wrestling. What happened this week in wrestling? Jam-packed week last week. A lot of things to spotlight. So if you have the time, go back and listen to that. Or if you just want to stay here and listen to this episode, this is where we're going to get into our weekly roundtable. Where we talk about wrestlers jumping ship from one promotion to the other. And we'll also dive into the news about the Big Show, Paul White, jumping from WWE to AEW. So without further ado, let's get into this week's weekly roundtable. All right, guys, so before we get even into all the stuff we want to talk about with the past wrestlers jumping from one promotion to the other, we got to talk about the big news. And that is, it was announced last week that the Big Show, a.k.a. Paul White, is all elite. So when this news came out on Wednesday last week, nobody saw this coming. We got the graphic. He was all elite. Then it was announced he's going to be one half of the commentary team with Tony Schiavone on AEW Dark Elevation, which will be on Monday starting at 7 on March 15th. Mm-hmm. So you can check that out. Keep up with the AEW Dark talent because they don't have enough time on TV already or YouTube. But what are your thoughts about this? Like, what was your first reaction to hearing this news, and how big of a jump was this? Because honestly, I saw Big Show as a WWE lifer, and this shocked the hell out of me.
Much like you said there, yeah, it was. I thought the Big Show was a WWE lifer. I never in a million years would have seen this coming. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I think this is probably, I'm going to say, behind the acquisition of Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley, I'm going to say this is the biggest acquisition, no pun intended, that AEW's gotten. Honestly, I think this is even bigger than AEW getting Sting. And the reason being is because, Sting wasn't tied to the WWE like the Big Show was. The Big Show spent 22 years, almost to the day, as a WWE employee. And that, so, absolutely floored by this. I'll never forget my initial reaction when I saw the news was in one of our chats was because Jovanni was the one that kind of broke the news in our chat. I asked Jovanni, I was like, is this legit? Like, because again, I never expected this. And then as soon as that happened, I started looking online. I think I was, I don't even remember what it was. This was Wednesday, so I was off work. I may have been out. I was out and about, I think, and stuff. And I looked on the phone, saw it was happening, and literally, as on Busted Open, Dave LaGreca and Tommy Dreamer had Lance Archer on promoting the show when the news broke. So, it was kind of something I think caught everybody off guard, us included. And I absolutely love it because I think Big Shows could be a big asset, no pun intended again, to the AEW team.
That is one big asset. First thing I thought of, gentlemen, was we need to have a show that Cody Rhodes is on called the Go Big Trevor Show so we can get Ricochet in the AEW because, of course, that's the reason why Big Show came over is because of the Go Big Show, right?
Yeah, dying.
But in all honesty, man, this shook the industry because Big Show from WCW to WWE, after that transition, who would have seen him leaving? There's no other real game in town to say, and Big Show was coming off of his appearance on the Legend show, so there's no hint that he wanted to leave. On the Legend show, I even said in our review of that night that I felt like he could have gotten back in the ring and should have. They missed an opportunity with him and Randy Orton. So this is a big deal, as everyone is saying. No pun intended. This is, outside of being an active wrestler, this is as big as you can get, or at least as big of a deal as you could have gotten. Big Show has years and years of experience. That's going to be a locker room leader. I'm interested to see how he calls. I haven't heard him on commentary before, so I'm very interested to see what his chops are. But I'm hoping nothing but the best for Mr. Wright, and I'm down for it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he has said, like Sting, he is still going to be, an active competitor, having limited matches. So it'll be interesting to see like how he still moves in the ring and everything. But the big thing yes, he's going to be a commentator and everything, and he's going to be an in-ring competitor. But the big thing I want to see from this whole acquisition with the Big Show, Paul White, is we have a certain match tomorrow night against Cody and Red Velvet versus Shaq and Jade.
No, Spencer, this match will have already happened by the time this drops. This will have happened 2 days prior.
Thank you. So that match would have already happened because I'm not used to our new format now. So that match would have already happened. So there's a competitor in that match who has had an interaction with the Big Show, and that is Big Shaq Diesel, Shaq, at WrestleMania 32. And, one of those battle royals, they did the pre-show battle royals, Andre Memorial Battle Royal. Yeah, it's a mouthful. So I think that if, Shaq does well in his match with Cody, and now with the acquisition of Paul White to AEW, do not be shocked if those two hook up in the ring and we get the Shaq versus Big Show match that WWE wanted to do but never pulled the trigger on back from a few years ago.
Spencer, you talking about me, Spencer?
Yeah, hey, what's up, Shaq?
It's Shaq Diesel, Shaq Daddy, Superman, DDJ's best friend. I'm gonna tell you
the worst game ever, Shaq Fu.
I'm gonna show Cody what Shaq Fu is when I beat him, because I've already beaten him. But Big Show, Paul Wright, Paul Bunyan, the Giant, whatever he wants to be. This is Shaq. I'll take you out. I'll Shaq Fu, Kung Fu, that big giant ass, because I'm Shaq Diesel, baby, Superman.
That made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
You know, we're just very blessed to be able to have Shaq on phone like that. So, I mean, I'm not going to criticize him for being a little rambled because, I mean, the man he's Shaq.
Yeah, Shaq does what Shaq wants.
I almost feel I know how that you guys ever seen that movie Billy Madison?
Yeah.
Yes.
I now know how that guy who was the moderator at the very last scene when they were doing the academic decathlon down to the event. I now know how that guy felt after Adam Sandler gave his long-winded answer about the Industrial Revolution after we just got done hearing that.
Oh,
that's hurtful.
And just real quick though, we already know Vince McMahon is probably shocked, pissed, whatever this happened. How pissed off do you think Vince McMahon would be if Tony Khan can book Shaq versus Big Show when he couldn't do it?
super pissed.
Oh yeah.
So it's totally happening now. But before we move on and we actually get into, what this roundtable is about. So you have already said, DDJ, you can't stand Jovan's Shaq impression. Which is worse, his Shaq impression, or which one would you rather sit through? His Shaq impression or my Dark Order segment of the week?
God, why are you doing this to me?
Ouch.
I'm gonna pull an Austin Aries and go with option C.
What's
That's
option C?
hurtful.
I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's got to be better than options A or B.
Wow.
The Junkyard Podcast would like to thank DDJ for his time and wish him well on his future endeavors.
Hi, guys.
Vince McMahon did fire him in our actual continuity. I don't know how he got back in, but he's been asking for a stapler, and we have moved his office to the basement.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, Vince. We appreciate you. So, hey, let's actually get started with the weekly roundtable now. So we're going to just talk about wrestlers who, went from one major promotion to the other and, at one point or another shook their industry to the core whenever, they moved. So guys, I'll let you lead off and we'll just go with this. So if you want to do like one or the other, jump back and forth or just run down your list and go from there.
Why don't we do
Let's
one?
back.
We'll take turns, and stuff kind of like the inset. So I became a wrestling fan in late 1990, early 1991. So this first one I'm going to talk about is probably the first instance of a really big, defection or, change, where a guy would go from jumping ship from one organization to another. It was summer of 1991. Ric Flair was running as the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, but a certain man who was running the show named Jim Herd wanted Ric Flair to cut his hair and basically adopt some sort of, I believe it was like a Spartacus type gimmick, and Flair was having none of it. Flair hated this man. Flair wanted out. Flair was champion. I believe Jim Herd fired Ric Flair and basically kind of threw WCW in uproar because they had a big show coming up called the Great American Bash. That's for another time, though. But a few months later, we go to, I believe it was an episode of Primetime Wrestling back in the summer of 1991. And I think it was on Superstars. I'm not sure. But we would see Bobby the Brain Heenan with a belt that looked very familiar to the fans of WCW. And that was at the time, that was the official NWA World Heavyweight title belt. And the reason why he had that belt is because the current owner of that belt was Ric Flair. And one of the things that you had as the NWA champion is you carried around that belt, but you had to put down, I believe it was a $25,000 deposit for that belt. So basically, if anything happened to it, you were held responsible for that title. Jim Herd refused to return the money to Ric Flair. So Ric Flair's like, I don't get my money back. You don't get the belt back. So that's led to Bobby the Brain Heenan bringing this belt on TV and basically saying that, that the real world heavyweight champion was coming to the WWF. Fast forward to an episode of Prime Time. Heenan's talking, and next thing you know, we see Ric Flair coming across our screens. And this was a WWF show. This wasn't NWA. So this was huge. At the time, I knew Ric Flair was WCW. I didn't realize how involved he was at the time because, again, I was still relatively new to pro wrestling. But Ric Flair showing up on WWE programming in the summer of 1991 was huge because, like I said, you didn't see things like this happen at this time. It was unheard of for something like this. Someone who was an NWA staple coming to the WWF. So Ric Flair coming to the WWF in 1991 was huge.
Huge.
So I'm going to bring up a name that a lot of people may associate with the WWE. A lot of people may associate him with Japan. But whenever you hear this name, you're talking about a certified badass. And that is the one and only Mama Foley's little boy, Mick Foley. I'm not going to go with Mick Foley's first appearance in the WCW, his appearance in the ECW, his appearance in the WWE. I'm going to take it from when Mick Foley left the WWE to go to TNA Wrestling in 2008. This is coming off of Mick Foley's match with Edge at WrestleMania, which was an amazing match, but a lot of people probably didn't think Foley could go after that. If you remember right, in WWE, he was kind of relegated to the one-offs. He was a commissioner. Then they tried to make him a color commentator. It wasn't really working for him creatively. And when his contract expired, he left. Somebody who had been loyal to the company for as long as he was and is still considered one of the flag bearers of the company, he left. He was done. And where does he show up? TNA. Total nonstop action wrestling. He would go on to have 2 more successful championship reigns. He had a lot of great matches in TNA. It kind of begged to the idea of he wasn't done when he left WWE, and they were already trying to put him out to pasture. So for me, that's one of the big ones. If you want to go back and watch anything on this one, Foley and Abyss is a dream match. If Foley had been a little bit younger, they could have torn the roof down, but this match still was amazing. But Foley to TNA was the first big shot that I could think of, somebody leaving the WWE and we didn't see it coming.
Yeah. Something to add to his run in TNA. Also, when he had that match at Lockdown against Sting, when he won the TNA World Heavyweight title, I honestly thought that was a really good match as well, too.
Yes.
So for my next one, we're going to fast forward to a couple of years. We're going to fast forward a couple of years into the future. We're going to go to Labor Day 1995, the very first episode of WCW Monday Nitro, emanating from the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was basically the unofficial start to the Monday Night Wars. I believe WWF Raw was on tape delay or so. I don't remember if they or something, or maybe they just weren't taped. That wasn't a live show, but this was WCW's first foray on Monday nights. And you always, when you have a new show launch, you always want something big, something unexpected, something to get the people talking. And we definitely got that. There was a match between 2 classic WCW rivals, Sting, who I believe was came into the match as the United States champion, and he was going up against his eternal WCW rival, Ric Flair. It's kind of fitting that they started off Nitro and they ended Nitro. But the biggest news from that match wasn't either of these 2 competitors. It was the unannounced arrival of the total package, Lex Luger, who I believe that his WWF contract had expired the night before. In fact, I believe he wrestled on a WWF house show the night before this episode of Monday Nitro. So seeing him show up is like, holy crap, what the hell is going on? I thought he was, working for the WWF. It came to show that WCW wasn't messing around. They were planning on sticking around for the long haul. They were breaking out the big guns. And I mean, how much bigger can you get on an episode, your debut episode of your flagship, what would become your flagship show, than bringing back, pulling someone from the WWF and having him show up unannounced on Nitro. So yeah, so for me, the next one, Lex Luger coming back to WCW and showing up on the very first episode of Nitro.
I'm going to group these next shots together because they all fit together very well. My first one, we're going to go when a young upstart kid joined into WCW from Japan. Granted, his runs in Japan and Mexico were very brief, but they were long enough for people to gain notice that this kid was going to be something one day. That man would be Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho entered into WCW pretty much being placed as the man. He's going to be the next big thing. This kid's going to be something. Jericho would leave WCW to go to Monday Night Raw, where he gets no help in his debut promo going against the great one, The Rock. A man who has buried plenty of talent with his mouth. And to be able to have the balls to stand up there with the who in the blue hell are you? I'm Chris Jericho. And it's Monday night is Jericho. Man, come on, guys. Chris Jericho, WCW was amazing. WWE come over, freaking amazing. Shot taken because WCW was pretty much on the way out at that time. The writing was on the walls. All the good guys or the big guys were thinking about leaving, and the first big shot that I could think of was Chris Jericho. Now, maybe the same happenstance is coming around, where maybe the writing is on the wall for some of these guys, that maybe the WWE isn't the pinnacle that it was made out to be. Maybe it shouldn't be the wrestler's idea thing to end up in the WWE, because that's almost everybody's end result is I need to make it onto the E. That's when you know you've made it. Well, there was this little upstart promotion who had a pep rally to kind of boost their crowds and boost their fan base. And showing unannounced at this pep rally, which I even think it stunned some of the dirt sheets, was the WWE zone, now AEW zone, Chris Jericho. I think fans knew that Jericho wasn't on WWE TV for a while, but Jericho always had that handshake deal with McMahon that he wouldn't work in the US unless it was with the WWE. McMahon let him go to New Japan and do his thing, what he wanted to do with Kenny, what he wanted to do with Naito. Vince was fine with that because Vince always thought that, hey, Jericho's my guy. He's a Vince guy. We have known him for years. Well, Jericho just happened to be out in Japan at the same time that this little upstart company was starting to really take a turn into being seriously more than just a pipe dream. And when he made his entrance to the one and only TAA field in Jacksonville, that set it off. That let everybody know these young guys, this little upstart, they're serious because they just snagged Chris Jericho. Give it a few months later, big time pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. You got to shock the wrestling world again. What happens? A known free agent, the one and only Death Rider himself, Jon Moxley. Dean Ambrose, formerly of the WWE, where a lot of people have seen him cut his teeth there, but if you were very into the indie scene, you know that Jon Moxley, king of the death matches, he shows up, he wrecks shop, and introduces that, hey, I'm here. The second major shot from WWE that AEW was able to successfully pull off. Now, yes, there have been a litany of other wrestlers who've left the WWE for AEW, but Those two are the biggest ones, guys. And I'm not counting Cody Rhodes because Cody Rhodes was a founder of the whole AEW scene. He was there from day one. Cody, at the time that all this was happening, was not considered a WWE guy like Jericho was, so that's why he doesn't get added. But there was one additional person, and he wasn't a wrestler, that came over in the early days of AEW. And this one shook the whole fan base of wrestling. The voice of everyone's childhood, good old JR.
Yep.
Left the WWE to come to AEW. If there was nothing more to tell you that these people were going to be legit, it's hearing the voice of your childhood calling the matches of these new cats. To me, all of those get one giant shot from AEW to WWE from people jumping ship when they saw the new option was coming.
That's a good one. So I've mentioned Ric Flair going to the WWF. I've mentioned Lex Luger going to WCW. My next one is really, I mentioned how when Luger showed up on the first Nitro was kind of the unofficial start to the Monday Night Wars. My next one is actually not just one guy, it's a duo. And I think these guys showing up to WCW was really when the Monday Night Wars got kicked into high gear. Again, nobody knew it was coming because, again, this is back in the days. I believe the internet was just getting off the ground, or it was still in its infancy. It wasn't anywhere close to what the internet is nowadays, where you can basically find out anything on anyone or what's going on and stuff. It was a Memorial Day episode of Monday Nitro. I believe it was their first 2-hour episode. There's a match going on between two guys. I want to say, I think it was Mike Enos and someone by the name, I think it was like Steve Dahl, who used to be part of Well Done or something like that. And next thing you know, the camera cuts to this crowd and you see somebody walking through the stand, heading towards the ring, and you saw a crowd of people forming behind him. This camera zooms in, and it's one Razor Ramon, or at least who we're led to believe was Razor Ramon. The announcers are like, "What's going on?" They played it off like they had no idea this is going on. But Scott Hall basically coming to the ring, hopping over the barrier, taking the microphone, stopping the match, and basically saying, "You want a war? You got a war." 2 weeks later, a certain very good friend of his and a fellow member of a little group known as the Clique showed up, and that was a man who was formerly known as Diesel, now known as Kevin Nash. And basically, these two guys showing up on Monday Nitro when we all thought were being led to believe that they still worked for the WWF. Basically coming in and starting the foundation of the group that would basically kind of be responsible for everything we got in the Attitude Era. And yes, I'm saying that about the New World Order. New World Order was responsible for a lot of what we saw in the Attitude Era, because I believe that was what gave Vince McMahon the kick in the pants he needed to jumpstart the Attitude Era. And I don't think you could have really gotten any bigger defection in the 90s than Scott Hall and Kevin Nash going to WCW.
That's a good one.
Spencer, why don't you lay one of yours on us?
Lay it on us.
Lay it on us. All right. So I got a few here that these guys haven't mentioned yet. We'll go with this one first. So right now in All Elite Wrestling, AEW, we have one wrestler I'm going to be mentioning right here, and that is the Icon Sting. Now, Sting is regarded as a WCW staple. He carried that brand for the longest time. There were always talks of him going to WWE. He eventually made his way to WWE in 2014, at kind of towards the end of the main event of the 2014 Survivor Series, when it was Team Authority versus Team Cena. He made an appearance out of nowhere costing the Authority of a match. And then that eventually led to a program with Triple H at WrestleMania 31. It was kind of like the NWO versus D Generation X. But just seeing Sting in a WWE ring, then he eventually, got a shot at Seth Rollins, the WWE champion. And unfortunately, at Night of Champions in 2015, that was his last match for a while, because during a bad buckle bomb, Seth Rollins, messed up his shoulder. And then we thought that was the end of Sting. And then now he is in AEW. But just seeing Sting in a WWE ring back in 2014, when there was always talk, it's like, oh yeah, he's going to go to WWE after WCW. He actually took a detour and went to TNA, but that really wasn't a big shock because WCW, TNA were sort of working together, like the same talent and stuff. But the jump from like TNA to WWE, that shocked the fan base to its core. And we would have loved to see more matches with Sting. But, unfortunately, he got hurt, and we never got that, proposed Undertaker versus Sting match, even though Sting has went on record to say, and I think it was on like an episode or a podcast episode of AEW Unrestricted, where he said he wanted Undertaker versus Sting in a cinematic match. But unfortunately, WWE wouldn't give it to him. So he's like, hey, I still got a little bit left in the tank. Let me go finish my career on my own terms. And now he's in AEW with his street fight with Darby Allin versus Ricky Starks and Brian Cage at Revolution. So Sting to WWE, that was a big shock to everyone.
I think the thing that's really remarkable, and I actually just thought about this as you were talking, Spencer, with Sting's match coming up at Revolution, he will have wrestled in 5 different decades: the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and now 2020s. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
you want something even more mind-blowing?
Give it to us.
If Paul Wright, a.k.a. The Big Show, a.k.a. The Giant, somehow finds his way into the AEW title, he will be the only wrestler to have held the WCW, ECW, WWF, and AEW title.
That would be, I don't think it's going to happen, but just the thought of that's just unreal.
Yeah.
I think the only way it happens, it just depends on if the Go Big Show gets a season 2 and they need to put that over, and Cody needs to go back to actually wrestling and getting over on his own TV shows. And then insert the Big Show, he wins the AEW World title, and then, they call it the Go Paul White Show.
Right, would they still call it the Go Big Show if he was on it, though?
They probably.
Yeah.
All right. What you guys got next?
So my last one that I have is really big for 2 reasons, and because this gentleman's first jump essentially laid the foundation for professional wrestling, and had this not happened, we may not be here doing this show. Professional wrestling may not be around. If it is, it's nowhere near as big as it is right now. And that is one Hulk Hogan. A lot of people know Hulk Hogan from his time in the WWF, basically laying the foundation for the rock and wrestling area, along with people like Roddy Piper, Wendy Richter, Mr. T, and everything. And basically Hulk Hogan transformed the WWF from a regional promotion to a worldwide phenomenon who, it's still going as strong as ever right now. But a lot of people don't know that before his time in the WWF, Hulk Hogan was a big player, or on his way to being a big player in the AWA, which was run by Vern Gagne. Story behind that was Hulk Hogan was pretty big. In fact, he had I take it back. He had a run in the late 70s, early 80s in the WWF as Hulk Hogan, but he wasn't the Hulk Hogan that we all, knew. He was actually a heel who was managed by Classy Freddie Blassie. He wrestled there. He had a very infamous match against Andre the Giant in 1980 at Shea Stadium, at the same show, I believe, where Bruno Sammartino and Larry Zbyszko wrestled in a steel cage match. But Hulk Hogan would go away for a couple of years because he wanted to go do Rocky III, and Vince McMahon Sr. would not let him do it. So I believe Hogan left, went and did Rocky III. Then he showed up in the AWA where he came back as a squeaky clean, babyface, the character that we all got to know Hogan as. And he got into a program with the champion at the time, Nick Bockwinkel, who was managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan. And the better part, I want to say, of 1983, I believe, Hogan spent chasing Bockwinkel for that AWA title. They did a lot of instances where the matches would play out where it looked like Hogan won the title, but actually only won the match on a disqualification or a technicality. So he would win the match but not get the title. One of the stupidest moves ever in the world of professional wrestling was not putting that AWA title on Hulk Hogan, because that ultimately began the decline of AWA to where it would go out of business a few years later. Believe one night Hulk Hogan got a call from Vince McMahon, but not Vince McMahon Sr., Vince McMahon Jr. And basically Vince told him, "This is what I got in mind. I want you to come in and be my guy." So December of 1983, Bob Backlund is in a situation with the Wild Samoans. They're beating up on Backlund. Hogan comes out, saves the day, saves Bob Backlund. Month later, and I'll never forget this day, January 23rd, 1984, Madison Square Garden. The Iron Sheik, who had just beaten Bob Backlund for the WWF title about a month or so earlier, defends the title against Hulk Hogan. Everybody knows what happened. Hulk Hogan would go on to win the title and, basically begin the stages of bringing WWF in to not only homes in the Northeast, but all throughout the country and all throughout the world. Fast forward a few years later, Hulkamania seemingly meets his end at King of the Ring 1993 when he loses the WWF title to Yokozuna. All of a sudden, a few months later, rumblings begin. Hogan's down in Orlando shooting Thunder in Paradise. The rumors are circulating. Next thing you know, ticker tape parade, Hulk Hogan signs with WCW, which just, again, I think it was bigger than Flair going to the WWF because Hogan was a bigger name. But man, though, just the fact that Hulk Hogan was in another promotion other than the WWF was huge at the time. And obviously we know what Hulk Hogan would go on to do, as basically, along with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash forming the NWO. And essentially, I think saving his career, because I think by the time he had formed the NWO, Hogan as a babyface was pretty much done. He was getting stale. He needed a jump start to save his career, and I think this move did it and stuff. But yeah, just Hogan going to Hogan going to the WWF from the AWA, and then in turn going to WCW from the WWF. I mean, not many jumps bigger than that one there.
Well, that was the mother of all jumps, man. Hogan making the jump because he did it for the money. That I remember that promo, man. That one cut deep. But there was one jump that I never thought I would ever see in my life, and it happened. There was this wrestler, man, who indie fame, killed it, the face of TNA, went to New Japan, was leading this badass buckshot group of rebels named the Bullet Club. And out of nowhere, there's rumblings that maybe he's bound to the WWE. Maybe he's going to be going. But no one takes him seriously because they had their shot at him, and he walked away from it because it wasn't the right move at the time. This is a guy that all wrestling fans, if they knew about him, made this guy in their creative wrestler in every rendition of WWE video games. I am talking about the man who debuted at number 3 during the Royal Rumble, the one, the only, the phenomenal AJ Styles. to see now what AJ has done, the face that runs the place, SmackDown is the house that AJ built, the championships that this man has won. I'm pretty sure that he's only a tag title away from being a Grand Slam champion.
Yep.
This guy has killed it. He's everything that we as fans ever wanted from him to be in the WWE. He just wasn't given the chance earlier in his career, but now towards the latter part of his career, he's saying he's going to retire there. This is probably going to be his swan song. He's still putting on great matches. Don't get me wrong. AJ Styles has a lot left in the tank, but just imagine the legend this man could have been had he had been in the WWE earlier, had Vince have given him the shot earlier, a legitimate shot earlier, because this is somebody that the greats talk about being the best person they've ever worked with. And you can't have a lot of people saying that about you if it wasn't true. So my big jump, coming from New Japan Pro Wrestling, the phenomenal AJ Styles is my last one.
And the one thing about that, too, is at that point in time, a lot of people still saw AJ Styles as a TNA guy, despite the fact that I believe he'd spent, about 2 years in New Japan?
Yes, and he was champ.
Yes, he was. And that's so, but I just thought, that was, because, you said I heard the rumors as well, too, but just, when the buzzer went off and the music started playing, and then just kind of like, who's this? And then the crowd, started roaring, and then you saw it, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it was a big deal, man.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And if anybody wants to see what that moment was like when AJ Styles came out as number 3 at the 2016 Royal Rumble, the one where the WWE Championship was on the line, and if you're watching our video feed, you can see Jovan throwing up his loyal subjects, AJ Styles. Dennis is throwing up the hands without no gloves or anything, but still throwing them up. I did it too. There is a great documentary the day of that Royal Rumble appearance. Go out of your way and watch that on the WWE Network. It is amazing. Jovan showing off another AJ Styles, a Christmas ornament. Definitely. And I've gone on record to say he is my favorite wrestler. He is the reason I got back into wrestling when I saw him. He was in WWE. His SummerSlam match with John Cena. This dude, again, he lives very close to me. Just all these things. AJ Styles will go down as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Are you stalking AJ Styles?
I was thinking the same thing. I just wasn't going to say it.
I am not stalking AJ Styles.
He's stalking Anna Jay.
He is stalking Anna Jay. I think she lives in Georgia too.
Yeah, she lives in Brunswick, Georgia. If we're being honest,
her address is.
I don't know that. I'm being for real.
Yet. He doesn't know it yet.
Yes. But hey, I was using that as a segue, not the Anna Jay thing.
At least that's what he wants us to believe, Jovanni.
I know. What kind of segue? The kind you used to spy on Anna Jay and AJ Styles?
Okay, okay, back on the rails. But AJ Styles is a happily married man with 4 beautiful children, and Anna Jay is, probably hooking up with my boy Preston Vance. So that's
that hurt, didn't it?
No. Honestly, if that is the case and those two are an item, I wish nothing but the best for them. Preston is a really cool dude. I would love to have him on a markout and be able to talk with him. He definitely, I would totally ship that couple if that was a thing. But let me finish off here.
Hey, Jovanni, real quick, do you smell something?
I do smell something, DDJ. What is it?
I smell bullshit there.
You know what? Being a member of the Dark Order, officially number 11, we support our own family. So if 2 members of the Dark Order, get together, and make Dark Order babies, that's all good. Okay, so moving on. Now, Jovan was mentioning AJ Styles, and he made a point to say there are wrestlers that regard AJ, as being one of the best workers, to work in the ring with, not breaking a sweat. one of those wrestlers has been on one of our virtual markouts before. It was one of our biggest high-profile virtual markouts at the time before, AEW World Champion Kenny Omega and Bret Hart just a few weeks ago. And that is the WWE Hall of Famer, the Olympic gold medalist who won with a broken friggin' neck, Kurt Angle. And if you can hear the sound and see it, DDJ is showing off his Kurt Angle medal. Not the official one, but like a replica, I think. Okay, so Kurt Angle was in the WWE, for a while. He was killing it over there. He was on his way up. He had won multiple championships. But he got to a point where, his neck was hurting really bad. He was taking like all these painkillers and everything. And he's gone on record, to talk about all this. And Vince didn't really, he was going down a downward spiral. And, Vince was like, no, you got to stop all that. So Kurt didn't want to do it. So he eventually left WWE back in 2006. Then there were rumblings like, okay, Kurt leaving WWE, shocking. Because he was a WWE guy, he was a Vince guy, but there were these rumblings, and it's like, okay, where's Kurt going to go to next? Now, a promotion that we talk about now on the Junkyard that doesn't get enough love now, but back in the day, definitely was not getting enough love, and that was TNA, not Impact, Total Nonstop Action. And we already mentioned that with Mick Foley jumping into TNA. So on the October 19, 2006 edition of Impact, Kurt Angle made his debut in TNA, where he stepped to Samoa Joe. And then he went on, have matches with Samoa Joe. There was even a match where he fought for all the titles, like every title was on the line, X Division Tag, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, which he actually did win, and then the TNA title. So he actually won that match and carried every belt in TNA. So that just showed you like what this company thought of him. So just, that move from WWE to TNA was very shocking. And then they treated him like a star over there. He got put in some great angles, with AJ Styles. And like I said before, he said he is one of the easiest workers to work with. You don't really have to do anything within the Main Event Mafia. A lot of great things. And then eventually, after some time off from TNA, doing some indie stuff, he eventually made his way back to WWE, because everybody does go back home eventually. There are other wrestlers that have left WWE that eventually might make their way back, if everybody does go home. So he did go home. He got inducted to the Hall of Fame, did the milk thing. But just when he left WWE, that moved to TNA, where he arguably, probably going to be a hot take, but he definitely had some of his best matches of all time in TNA. WWE, he had some great matches for sure. But, just his time from TNA, definitely, if you see a list of Kurt Angle matches, there are TNA matches on there. So definitely need to check those out if you haven't. But yeah,
Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, enough said.
Yep.
There you go. And
take, Spencer, hot take. His TNA run was better than his WWE run.
There you go. Hot take here from the Junkyard host. But yeah, and as Jovan was saying, Samoa Joe actually was utilized very well in TNA before, he made his way to WWE. And honestly, since we're on the topic of that one, Samoa Joe going to NXT and WWE was kind of shocking too, because this dude was ROH, but then he was TNA for the longest time. I would put that on the same level as AJ Styles. He was a TNA guy. Yeah. And him going to NXT and then WWE just came out of the blue. It's like, what? Samoa Joe's in NXT? Like, when I started watching it, I'm like, what? And then, he made it WWE. Unfortunately, has not had the same level of success as AJ Styles. Has suffered multiple injuries. I'm hoping he gets, and I know it's coming, he gets another run in the ring, and possibly they put the WWE Universal Championship on that guy, because if somebody deserves a title in that company, just like AJ Styles, it is Samoa Joe.
Joe got unlucky and ran into Seth Rollins when he was a little green still. And,
Yeah.
When you're green, you hurt people. It happens, man. And Joe, it was surreal. Like all these people on this list that we've talked about, it's kind of surreal when you first realize that they're there. But I think my big moment, it hit me at TakeOver when the crowd is saying, Joe is going to kill you. That's when it resonated to me like, holy crap, freaking Samoa Joe is in NXT.
Yeah. Any final thoughts to add before we take it home, guys?
No, I think this is a really good, topic to discuss. And it was just on the heels of the news about Paul White signing with AEW. I mean, I felt like this is something that, it was like came into our laps. It's like, let's talk about stuff like this.
Does the WWE own the Big Show name?
I'm sure they do.
I'm probably sure they do. That's why they said Paul White is All Elite.
What about Giant? You think they kept his WCW name too?
Maybe.
No, but I could definitely see them trying to trademark it now.
Well, you know what they can't trademark because he is All Elite. Captain Insano is All Elite.
No, I believe who did was that wasn't Universal that put out that movie, was it?
It was Billy Madison Films, at least.
Whoever owns the rights to Waterboy probably might have something to say about Captain Insano.
So if you couldn't tell, yes, Captain Insano was from The Waterboy, one of Adam Sandler's greatest movies.
Yes.
So
well, then maybe he can just use his best name of them all, Santa Claus.
I don't think he could use Santa Claus.
There's no way you could trademark Santa Claus. That's a name.
They can find a way to trademark anything. But so we have talked a lot about, wrestlers, jumping ship, some very big moves no one ever saw coming, shocking moments, arrivals, whatever you want to say about them. But guys, if there's a moment or a wrestler we left off this list, please let us know in the comments. Let us know what you think about the ones we listed for sure. But that's going to wrap it up for this special Friday edition. If you like this new format, please let us know in the comments as well, either on our YouTube page or on the Pro Wrestling Junkies group or page. Maybe if these are a little more easy to digest, we'll definitely keep doing this so we can, provide more content for you guys and make it easier for your listening pleasure. But again, that is going to wrap it up for this edition of the Junkyard. Make sure you guys are following. If you aren't already, please go follow our Twitter, our Instagram. Twitter is close to 2,000 followers, so maybe we can hit that by revolution time. Our boy Hector's killing it on there, so go do that. Follow and like the Instagram. Subscribe to the Pro Wrestling Junkies YouTube page, PW_Junkies. Go like our page, join the group Pro Wrestling Junkies, join the marketplace Pro Wrestling Junkies Marketplace, and go buy a t-shirt at ProWrestlingTees.com/Pro Wrestling Junkies so we can afford those expensive virtual markets like Jericho. So if you want that, go buy a t-shirt. So you can follow me on my personal Twitter account at number 11SC. Dennis, take it home. Let them know where the people can find you.
Yeah, once again, I echo Spencer's statement. Guys, if we missed something, please, feel free to reach out to us on, the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook page, Twitter, the YouTube page. Or if you would like to talk to me directly on Facebook, you can reach me at Dennis Day Jr. on Facebook or follow me on Twitter at Dennis W. Day Jr. My show also has a page on Facebook, What Do You Say, with the question mark with DDJ. And then follow the show on Twitter at What Do You Say, DDJ.
Cheap pop.
Well, like I said, even more now than ever because we're doing this 2 days a week. I got to give the people what they want.
And what the people want for the second time this week, the 2 times if you like it, is Jovanni 2 Hotty, the one and only El Guapo 2 Hotty, coming in for you twice this week. If you like it, guys, let us know. We will keep doing this 2 thing because it is half my gimmick, half what the people want, and half what we do for you. Also, you're listening to this right now, Friday morning, just to make sure you guys remember, on Monday, the 8th, our next virtual markout is the one and only Concrete Rose Sunny Kiss from AEW. So if you weren't able to get in with Brett, which was an amazing one that we provided, Sunny Kiss Monday is going to kill it. And just a little tidbit out there, I have learned from some personal sources who know Sunny Kiss. Sunny Kiss is a metal fan. So maybe we'll get some metal questions and we can rock out with Sunny Kiss.
And guys, if you know, Sunny Kiss has an amazing story, and you know it's one that really you don't want to miss because Sunny Kiss is just a truly amazing person who's got a lot of talent and skill in the ring, and I am very excited for this.
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to get yourself prepped for Sunny Kiss, I would definitely highly recommend go checking out the AEW Unrestricted episode with Sunny Kiss. Very highly informative and just a really great overall episode. So a nice companion piece to get you ready for the virtual markout.
If you also want to get ready for the virtual markout and you need to make sure you're a little cleaned up, go ahead and go into the official sponsor of the Junkyard, Manscapes 3.0's Lawnmower 3.0. It'll make sure that you're nice and clean for our markouts.
Hey, Jovanni, you never gave your socials, by the way.
Oh, hell. Sorry about that, everybody. I was too busy putting us over, man. You guys know you can find me on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook page under Jovan Menacho, which is my given name, on the Twitter at Jovanni2Hotty. And like I said, we do this for you guys. We don't do it for The Rock. I was too busy plugging Sunny Kiss and the rest of our awesome stuff that we do with Pro Wrestling Junkies. I don't even care about my socials and stuff. Reach out to us on the Facebook page. That's where you can find me.
There you go. It's all about the page and all about the group. So thank you, Jovan, for that. Let's wrap it up and take it home. So, guys, thank you for tuning in to this Friday edition. Again, just let us know if you want us to keep doing this. We will. And we'll see you guys Tuesday for your regular edition of the Junkyard. So, guys, have a great night, and we'll see you later. Goodbye. Good night. Good bang. Goodbye. Junkies out. Ba-bang.